Greetings. Welcome to maryisnewevangelization.com. This is Tomasio, and graduate of Franciscan University back in 1985. That's how long ago. I know I don't look that old, but yeah, I am. So anyway, here is our update. We are standing at the back near the port, where of course the nativity of St. Francis is proudly displayed here. And this weekend was the youth conference here at Franciscan University. So I am happy to be here with an update. And unfortunately, not everybody's as happy as I am in regards to Pope Francis. I've talked to Father Sheridan. I've talked to Dr. Alan Schreck, the head of the theology department, as well as some students and another friend who is an employee here, and they're very concerned about Pope Francis because want this to be very intimate, personal conversation. Now, I want to be as accurate as I can as well. Now, first of all, this is a Franciscan university. When I came to school here, I learned about St. Francis. I loved him. I fell in love with St. Francis because of the spirituality, the love, the purity, the freeness, the love of nature, the love of life of Pope Francis. Just absolutely inspiring. Just truly spiritual, mystical, and very, very inspiring. Now, you would think that would continue. Now, the Pope's encyclical Laudata quotes Pope Francis, his songs, his prayers, and talks about St. Francis as the one who really redeemed creation. Jesus redeeming humanity, St. Francis redeeming creation because of his love for creation. And there's so many books about how the animals just responded to St. Francis, and we saw how the animals responded to Noah as well. So God loves creation. There's no question about it. This is This is handiwork. This is a reflection of God's beauty. This earth and creation and nature and animals and the seasons and the stars and all these wonderful things that we all enjoy from one time or another. Now, this encyclical affirms the fact that creation is being abused and neglected and trampled upon and turned into a garbage dump. Those were his words. Now, this is not good news. And what the Pope is saying basically is that the earth is erupting. The earth is responding to the violence that's being perpetrated on it by means of various storms of significant proportions that cause much death and devastation. So we don't have to go into that because it's clear the storms are very severe that are hitting the earth now. And this is a reflection of humanity because humans are killing each other. The atrocities of ISIS, for example, and the domestic terrorism, the racial tension, it's just incredible the violence that's being perpetrated on this earth, and the abuse, the trafficking, how women are being sold, girls into slavery, into human trafficking, just here, you come with me. You're going to become a sex slave. I mean, that's what's going on in some parts of this world. Now with the internet, we find out, we know about it. So, there's the bottom line is you can say, oh, well, this has always been happening. Well, if it's always been happening and we're being made aware of it now, then we have to respond. Or if this is something that is increasing, then we also have a responsibility to respond. So what's the big deal? Why are people not excited about Pope Francis, especially at a Catholic university? Why is there this sort of nobody wants to talk about this encyclical The young people here at the youth conference who I talked to, I pointedly said, I said, did they talk about Pope Francis? And they were like, I don't. Oh yeah, we did say a prayer for Pope Francis. And I said, well, how about like the encyclical? Do you guys know the name of this? No, they didn't know the name of the encyclical. Did they talk about it? No. Okay, so here the Holy Father is, sticking his neck out, evangelizing the entire world, trying to call the world to some type of civilized existence where human life is respected. He clearly says in Laudata that abortion is contributing to the problem with the environment and global warming. And he clearly affirms the sanctity of human life. He also brings the Blessed Mother in beautifully as the mother of all creation. So he's got the Blessed Mother, he's got St. Francis, he's got Scripture, and he's got pro-life woven through this call to save the planet from annihilation. Now we know there's biblical passages that talk about the annihilation of the planet as ultimately the judgment of God on people who rejected him and took the mark of the beast, who didn't want to be beheaded. So there's so many things like sort of converging and colliding. Okay, and what do we do now? If the Catholics can't get behind Pope Francis, we got serious problems, because we should be leading the support for Pope Francis, who is addressing the entire human race. So we should be his loudest supporters, no question in my mind. And I would even go so far as to say that he is the fulfillment of Revelation 12, the male child destined to rule the nations with an iron rod. And it's not real clear, but there seems to be an insinuation that that male child will be assassinated. It says he'll be taken to heaven. And then a war breaks out in heaven, the devil and Michael. So it sounds as if there will be the church, if the Pope's assassinated and then there's this major war in the church, then it does say that the devil gets kicked out of the church and the church is purified, but woe to you, earth and sea. So, and then he goes after the woman. Read Revelation 12, it's all there. Then you have Revelation 13, which talks about the beast. It says the whole world will worship the beast, except for those whose names are written in the Lamb's Book of Life. So how many are going to be written in the Lamb's Book of Life? How many people will choose life as opposed to choosing death? And that is the battle that's going on. Who is going to stand with ISIS, right, because they want to eat, or who is going to resist because they want eternal life, and their earthly life is, it's valuable, but they're not willing to sacrifice eternity. So, to sum it up, I'm, as a Franciscan University alumni, as someone who loves St. Francis, I'm very disappointed that there's not more enthusiasm for Pope Francis. The 3 conversations I had, Father Sheridan, he was not against Pope Francis at all, but when I mentioned to him about Dr. Cyrilla speaking at an anti-Pope Francis Catholic Identity Conference, he was not at all concerned at all. And he was very confident that Dr. Cyrilla was going to go and support Pope Francis through his presence at this conference, and that I really didn't know what I was talking about. Okay. So, secondly, Dr. Alan Schreck, who was here when I was a student, and he was a professor of mine. I've talked to him on a number of occasions. He also was not concerned that Dr. Cyrilla speaking at this conference was a problem. He did acknowledge that people could get the wrong impression. Here again, they're just presuming that this conference is just any kind of conference, and they're going to get people in there with different views. That's not what this conference is about. Catholic Identity Conference is very seriously calling, really, the Church back to pre-Vatican II days. They really reject the modernism of the Church, and that's the conference has that's the theme, is rejecting modernism basically. And the speakers The ones, Louis Verrecchio, Michael Natt, Ferrara, they've all been outspoken critics of Pope Francis. There's no question. So it's hard to find an example that people aren't going to get offended by. But what comes to my mind is like this. Okay, the Klan is going to have a conference on, restoring, say, like white supremacy in America. And, somebody from Catholic University is going to speak at that conference, and nobody cares because they like that professor so much, and they know that he's going to go there and he's going to straighten the Klan out, and he's going to help them to understand that their views are supremacist. And that's the attitude. That's the attitude from Dr. Schreck and from Father Sheridan that I picked up, is that they have complete confidence in Dr. Cirillo, and he will straighten these people out if they're against Pope Francis. Well, anybody that's been following this thing knows that's just they don't see it, clearly don't see it, or they don't want to see it. So now Dr. Schreck said that they will have a pro-Pope Francis, some type of seminar or something of that nature in the fall, I believe, which would be good. Or I don't remember the dates. But Dr. Schreck did write a book about Pope Francis and St. Francis. And I think Dr. Schreck is our best hope to really lead the student body here in support of Pope Francis. But he's definitely got to step it up in regards to understanding the division. Now, the other person who's an employee here, he shared with me clearly his thoughts that he feels that Pope Francis is definitely leaning to the left. It causes him great concern. He feels that, Catholics are going to continue to be isolated and persecuted in this country. And, he's not happy. He's clearly not happy about Pope Francis. So I'm finding myself having to defend Pope Francis here on campus. And the more I talk to people, and then, at first they look at me like, is he real? And then it becomes like they share their concerns. So there are many people who have concerns about Pope Francis on this campus. There's no question about it. And anyone who wants to deny that, you are clearly in denial. So what I'm encouraging people to do, an alumni, is to stand behind Pope Francis 100%. And anyone who is coming against it, not that we can't answer their questions or something of that nature, or try to help people come to the support of Pope Francis, but clearly the university, should be enthusiastically supportive of Pope Francis 100%. They shouldn't tolerate, official dissent, especially when the professors take an oath of fidelity to the Holy Father, which Father Sheridan affirmed that, Dr. Cirillo has taken this oath of fidelity to the Holy Father. So, so you have three options with Pope Francis. One is hot, enthusiastically supporting him, that's where I am. I believe he is Revelation 12 fulfillment. I believe that God is with him clearly, not that he's perfect, but his mission is a God mission, and we need to be behind him 100%. Okay? Or two, you can be completely against him. Louis Verrecchio, these guys who are cold. And like I said before, Jesus supports being hot or cold. He even said that. So now, what that means as far as your next life, I don't know. I really don't know, and I don't even begin to speculate on that. Other than Jesus said, "I'd rather you hot or cold." He said, "But if you're lukewarm," which I'm sensing here, we have a lukewarm. You have how many thousand young people here on campus, and you're not even going to encourage them to read the Pope's encyclical? So now you have the world is just ecstatic about Pope Francis. Like, they're responding, they're understanding, they're seeing, wow, oh my gosh, this is the Pope who like going to visit prisons and the poor and like. So it comes down to this: the Pope is not a Catholic supremacist, okay, meaning that everyone has to become Catholic and only the Catholic Church knows anything. He's clearly not a Catholic supremacist. Okay, those Catholic supremacists are those who feel that there is no salvation outside of the Catholic Church. And the Catholic Church is basically infallible in regards to its teachings. And, you know, pretty much any mistake the Church has made, they have an explanation for, whether it, was how the indigenous people were treated during the missionary outreaches in America, where the Pope just apologized to the indigenous people, or anything, related to Galileo or the Inquisition or the treatment of Protestants, um, so anyway, uh, clearly this is the ultimate question here. Okay, now people will sidetrack the issue and they'll stay focused on gay marriage, and Pope has said that gay marriage is clearly not part of God's design, for marriage. He said that, but that doesn't mean he hates gay or transgender people. He doesn't. He loves them dearly. He just would encourage them not to register their marriage, with the federal government, one, and, to think in some way, shape, or form that that's what God intended for marriage, because you're missing the life thing. God is always about pro-life. It's about procreation. He told Adam and Eve, be fruitful, multiply. That's really ultimately what it comes down to. So as the human race continues to make decisions that prevent more humans from being born, that prevent more humans from being conceived, and that are contributing to the basically making the earth less and less hospitable to humans. These are things that anyone who is truly pro-life is going to respond or react against, because it's ultimately an attack against humanity, which means an attack against you and me. Our existence is threatened when decisions and governments make decisions that work against procreation of the human race. And so people who are working against procreation of human race oftentimes cite the environment. Like, in other words, the environment can't handle all these people because of global warming or something like that. Well, then you got to change, the human contribution to global warming. And the Pope clearly says that abortion is contributing to global warming, because what it does is it's the ultimate throwaway. And when you throw away your own child, that's the ultimate throwaway. You can throw away, plastic and burn plastic or tires or whatever. Okay. Well, when you do that to a baby, I mean, come on. I mean, that's just unheard of. So ultimately, so even the people who are excited about Pope Francis now, ultimately are going to have to decide: do you embrace life or do you embrace death? And I believe it was Moses and Joshua who called that clearly. And then in our day and age, Pope John Paul II called for the gospel of life. So it's not so much about, oh, I confess Jesus, because that doesn't mean anything really anymore. There's so many people that confess Jesus, yet they'll turn on him in a second. It's really your attitude towards life, like human life as well as nature, the environment, the air, water. Are you a throwaway person? Do you believe in being greedy? Pope's hitting greed real hard. The devil's dung, okay? Like being greedy and selfish. Okay, I'm going to do whatever I want to do. I'm number one. And I don't care. I'll pollute. I will abort. I will let you die of hunger and thirst. I don't really care as long as I'm being fed, So, so we're being challenged. Pope Francis is clearly challenging us all. I love the university, clearly, but I am clearly concerned. I think this university has lost its lost any kind of front runner status in regards to cutting edge Catholicism by denying Pope Francis and or being ashamed of him or being embarrassed by him or in some way lukewarm towards him. I think that pretty much discredits, I hate to say it, it really does discredit a lot of the theology that's being presented here when you can't even back Pope Francis enthusiastically in what he's doing, because what he's doing is unprecedented. And I mean, he's literally challenging the entire human race, atheists, communists, Buddhists, Muslims, to convert. And he's saying to convert to pro-life. And obviously, Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. So, I mean, he's brilliant, he's powerful. So let's continue to pray for the university and encourage support of Pope Francis and his reforms. It's so critical that Father Sheridan and they're meeting, the TORs are meeting this week, all their changes and everything like that. So hopefully they'll discuss Pope Francis and how important it is as the Franciscans to get behind him. That's their own identity. If they're going to deny their own founder and they can't support Pope Francis, Laudata Si, I mean, really? I mean, that is huge. That's like suicide, if you ask me. So, all right, this is my update, and I am ask God's blessing on the leadership, that they would continue to pray, and certainly I appreciate the alumni and the alumni support. I mean, I am proud of the alumni of Franciscan who are very supportive of Pope Francis. God bless.